Hello and welcome back to Super Hell, aka the Mystery Spotcast, a show where two recovering Supernatural fans subject themselves to a rewatch so no one else ever has to watch Supernatural again. My name is Ollie. I use any pronouns, and you can find me on social media at OllieFresh. It's fresh with a PH.
And I'm Klaudia. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on social media at Klaudia Says, K-A-L-U-D-I-A Says. Welcome to the end of season 5.
This is our congratulations, listener. You have made it to the end of season 5. We are in the last 2 episodes of season 5, and you know, I think a lot of people talk about this as being like the real ending of Supernatural because, as you'll know, this is when Eric Kripke, creator and showrunner, stepped away. So the show after this goes through a bit of a transitional period. Transitioning into what? I do not know.
God knows.
Who knows? This is when the identity crisis really truly begins.
Yeah, and it's when we talked about the beginning of the end, like, this is the last time the show, I think, is ever good. And even these episodes, are they good? Are they bad? Who can say?
Yeah. I think this is, like, especially one of the last times the show has, like, an actual direction.
Yeah.
Like, it's, like, it knows what it is. I think the show now, it's not just that it's, like, better written or that it's better produced or that it's better anything. It's just that it had an idea of what it was trying to say.
Yeah. It may not executed that well, but at least it had a direction.
Yeah. And I also, here's the problem. A lot of people talk about this part of this season and are like, oh, this was like the true ending. Like the show should have ended after season 5. And I'm low-key like, I don't know about that actually, because I don't know how much I like this ending.
Yeah, like, here's the problem, is that it's well written as a conclusion to what we've had so far. It very much feels like if the show ended here, it would be good. That doesn't mean it's a good ending, if that makes sense.
Yes, correct. We'll talk about it. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but oh my God, we are going to be unpacking a lot today. That's why we're kind of like skipping through, like we're kind of getting down to brass tacks. Like we're
not doing our 30-minute 911 recap at the beginning.
Yeah, don't. The way that we do usually talk about 911 for a while, and then I just cut most of it out because by the time the episode comes out, another episode of 911 has already come out. I'm like, okay.
Would you like me to begin?
I honestly, I would love maybe nothing more. Okay. I think actually that would, like, it would make my entire day, my entire year, my entire life. I'd start crying and screaming, and I would be, you know, bowing down on my knees, praising the fact that you started. So, like, honestly, I can't think of anything better.
This is the energy we're going to be bringing to the next 10 seasons of the show.
Yeah.
The fact that this marks us being a third of the way through the show.
Fuck. We're only a third of the way through the show, and our show has been on for what, like 3 years now?
You're stuck with me.
After the math, it's like we're not gonna be done with this show until like 2030. No, probably more than that, honestly. Probably like,
fuck.
Yeah, we're stuck here for life, guys. We joke about like, oh well, like what are we gonna cover after Supernatural? Girl, if the world hasn't had some sort of imminent climate disaster by then that we both live on the East Coast, like it'll be over.
Oh God.
That's a joke. Anyway, you guys should really engage with community initiatives to make the world a safer and better place for people. Yeah. So really do look out for that. No, I feel like that means that's like, but it is that serious.
Yeah,
like we're laughing, and I'm like, actually, have you considered community work? Have you considered engaging with those around you?
Have you considered?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Period. I know that's right.
Speaking of worldwide catastrophes, let's talk about Pestilence.
Fuck. Okay. Precursor to this episode, I need to say, nasty diseases were happening. There was like twice where like I was actually gagging.
Yeah, I was like,
it was so nasty.
But, and also, remember when we talked about how this show gets weirdly anti-vax? Unfortunately, that does happen in these 2 episodes too.
It's weird because you can tell the show isn't actually trying to be anti-vax.
Yeah.
And I think like in a different political climate, like especially the one that existed like when this episode came out, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But because we are at where we are at now, it's like it didn't age well, but I don't think it's the show's fault because they never could have predicted where it would have gone.
Yeah. When we get to that part, I have something weird to say about that, but let me not get ahead of myself. So the second to last episode of the season is called Season 5, Episode 21, 2 Minutes to Midnight. And it opens on, if you remember, the last episode ended with a guy going into a convenience store and then getting this guy sick, and he was really gross, and then he got in his gross car, and it was really gross. It is the same guy, but he's going under this name, Dr. Green, and he walks into this, it looks like a hospital room, it's a nursing home, and there's this woman, she's like laying down, it's kind of dark, it's at night, and she's clearly sick, she's older, and he calls himself Dr. Green, and he's talking to this patient named Celeste, and he's supposed to be caring for this older woman, and he's like, oh, you're my favorite patient, and she's like, am I gonna get any better? And he was like, oh, no, you are actually gonna feel worse with my proprietary blend of the common cold, dengue fever, and Japanese encephalitis. And she's like, what? And then suddenly he snaps his fingers, and she has, like, rashes all over her, and then he goes, never had chickenpox as a child, so I'm like, so does she also have shingles?
I guess that was my understanding.
I was confused.
Yeah,
and
I believe he gave her shingles. This is like diabolical.
And they are trying to depict him as the most diabolical of all of the horsemen.
Yeah.
And
you know, it's really beautiful because it's like, oh, there's this, I think, like, a lot of people, like, nursing homes as a horror backdrop are not new. And I think that there is something to be said about, like, how we as a society look at what we do with our elderly. But I won't get into all of that, like, because that's a bigger can of worms. But I do think that, like, disease in a nursing home as a horror element is not uncommon. But literally when this was happening, I was like, this happened in the Magnus Archives.
Fuck.
I was like, this happened in the Magnus Archives. Dude.
Fuck.
I'm like, quickly, we need an old man and the daughter of a serial killer to come set this bitch on fire.
Honestly, I would trust them over Sam and Dean.
I don't know about that, but
sometimes Sam and Dean are so fucking stupid, I would trust anyone over that.
That is fair. That is actually a fair argument.
So
anyway, I'm so sorry. It's been a while since I've referenced the Magnus Archives on this show, though, so you should all be consider yourselves lucky.
So then he goes, you're gonna die in 3, 2, 1, and then it cuts to his face, and she makes this, like, vomiting sound, and then you just hear this splat and this green goo that's supposed to be boogers, but it looks like the Nickelodeon slime.
I thought it was like phlegm. I don't think it was boogers.
That's what it's supposed to be, but it looks like the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards slime.
I'm sorry. Oh my god. I'm sorry. This kind of stuff is so disgusting to me. Like, I like actually can't even think about it right now because it is so gross.
Like, in the show it's really gross, but when you look at, like, the screenshots, or, like, when you look at the scenes later where he just has it on him, he just looks like he got slimed at the Kids' Choice Awards.
I'm, like, actually gagging. I'm gonna have to, like, edit some of these sounds that I'm making out. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So then we have the title card, Supernatural. And we cut to, we are at Bobby's house. Dean is like, what the hell is wrong with you? Because Sam has told him his plan of, I'm going to say yes to the devil, and then you're going to open the pit, and I'm going to take back control, and I'm going to jump in. And Dean is like, what the hell's wrong with you? And Sam is like, Dean, and Dean's like, don't you Dean me. Happy Mother's Day to Dean.
Literally, happy Mother's Day. He has oldest daughter and oldest son syndrome. It's so sad.
It's so harrowing.
I just
we're recording this on Mother's Day, so that's why I had to shout out to our mother hen Dean.
Oh, my poor princess.
He's going through it the most in these episodes. Something that Bobby says indicates that Bobby knew that Sam would suggest this and wanted to do this.
As you'll recall, in the last episode, Sam was, like, talking to Bobby, and he was like, when you stabbed yourself, when you were possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
How'd you do that? And then Bobby's like, oh, girl. And then the thing that ends up happening is, in this scene, Dean is pissed off at Bobby too, because he's like, oh, you knew? And you didn't think to say anything? And Bobby's like, well, what do you want me to say? Like, what can I do?
It's so they're having this argument, and then Dean's phone rings, and he picks it up, and he's like, hello? And it's Castiel. And we cut to Cass, and he's in a hospital bed.
And mind you, Cass has been missing. Cass disappeared at the end of the episode with Adam, and has been MIA.
And they high-key thought he was dead. And they're like, hey, where have you been? And Dean goes, are you okay? And Cass goes, no. Dean goes, you want to elaborate? Like, they talk like a married couple. Like,
it was also, this scene was happening, I was like, okay, Castiel is real, because Cass says some stuff to Dean that I'm like, if someone else said that to him, he'd be making a joke, but Cass says it, and he's like,
no, it's this,
because what, sorry, I'll let you continue to say what he says, because
it makes me insane. So he's like, Cass is like, yeah, after the stuff happened in Van Nuys, which is the episode with Adam, he's like, I thought I was dead, and then I popped up injured, fucked up, on a shrimping boat off Delacroix, and he's like, and Dean is like, okay, well, just zap yourself here, and Cass is like, I can't zap myself anywhere, my battery's drained, I'm out of angel mojo, and Dean is like, that makes you incredibly human. And why did my brain in that moment go, he went, oh my god, I can finally fuck him. And right after this, Cass is like, okay, so you're gonna have to send me money for like a plane ticket and food, and I'm hungry, and I have this itch that I can't scratch, and this and that, whatever. And I'm like, and they're not talking about how he's horny.
It's like so cute though, because Cass, like, Misha Collins, fuck him for being such a good actor of this character, because Cass looks like a kicked puppy. He looks like a kitten, and he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, and like, I'm not going anywhere unless I have money for, food and transportation and painkillers, hopefully, and I have this itch, and no matter how much I scratch it, it doesn't go away. And Dean's like, yeah, that's rough.
Dean's like, uh-oh, Pookie, we're gonna have to teach you about health insurance.
You think Dean Winchester has health insurance?
No, but and then Dean goes, oh, it's okay, Bobby's here, he'll wire you the cash. And Bobby's like, I will? He's like, well, you've got Pookie, right?
Yeah. And Bobby is actually really into stocks. He has a lot of liquid he has a lot of assets that he really should probably liquidate at this point, knowing the end is coming.
How's Castiel getting through the TSA?
Yeah, he doesn't have like an ID. Castiel doesn't have real ID. I know you didn't need it at this point, but that's the thing. How are they gonna fly? How are they gonna forge real ID? Maybe that's why the show had to end.
Because of the real ID.
Yeah, okay. Real ID killed Supernatural.
Oh, fuck. We're gonna have to call the episode then. So then we're in the middle of this conversation, and then Cass is like, Dean, I owe you an apology. Because if you remember, the last time we saw them was when Dean and Castiel had this fight where Castiel beat the shit out of Dean and was like, I rebelled from heaven. I did all of it for you. And
because Dean was like, I'm gonna be the vessel for Michael.
Yeah.
And then Cass died so they could go in, or they thought he died so he could go in to save Adam.
Yeah.
And then he totally thought Dean was gonna walk in and say yes to Michael, but he was like, okay, well, fuck, all right.
So he's like, I owe you an apology. And he says, you said no to Michael. I owe you an apology. You are not the burnt and broken shell of a man that I believed you to be. And Dean, normally the way Dean responds to something like that is like joking about it. But
like,
he just goes,
I totally thought he was going to say something like, oh, well, thanks for your vote of confidence or something.
Yeah.
Like that. But
he says, thank you. I appreciate that.
Like so earnestly.
How long have they been married? Like, what the fuck?
No, it was so sick because I I can't stop thinking about how I know that Dean was so relieved to hear his voice, and I'm just like, guys, Castiel is literally real.
So real.
Because even if, like, someone like Sam or Bobby had said, like, oh, you're not, like, the shithead I thought you were, he'd be like, oh, well, blah, 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 like, thanks a lot. But the fact that he's genuinely just like, thank you, like, oh my god.
Pookie's alive. And here's the crazy thing, like, we're gonna get to this later, but let's think about the number of times that God has brought Cass back for Dean. Let's think about it.
Let's have a moment of silence to consider.
Let's consider. Anyways, so
that was not a moment of silence.
That was us going. So we cut to.
I can't stay silent when I'm thinking of them.
No, we cut to Sam and Dean. We cut to Sam and Dean getting in the car. Bobby's like, okay, guys, go be careful. They're gonna go try and kill Pestilence and get his ring, which is what they were talking about earlier, and they have clearly found where he is.
As I'll remind you guys, the key to opening the cage to put Satan in is the Four Horsemen's ring, so they can use those to open up the cage to lock him back in.
And I just have to say, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Lucifer, at the end of the day, is just an angel. Why can't you just kill him the way you kill any other angel?
Well, they have said that you can't kill archangels unless you have, like, a special blade or whatever.
But the blade exists! Just get an archangel blade.
Yeah, that is a really good question. The other thing, too, is they're like, oh, we have to have Sam, like, get him, like, Sam has to accept, like, being the vessel, and then he can jump in if he seizes control. But, like, he's in a vessel now. Why can't they just put that vessel in? Like,
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Run?
I don't understand. None of this show makes any sense. But
we can't think about it too hard or we'll get angry.
God is writing a pulpy novel, and that's what we have to remember.
Yeah, and you will remember that in the next episode. Don't worry.
So we cut to. They have now showed up. It's nighttime. They're staking out this Serenity Valley convalescent home, which is clearly where the first scene was. And there's, like, someone wheeling in, an older person in, and Sam and Dean are making jokes, and they're like, oh, this is Dr. Evil's lair. And they say, it's kind of more depressing than evil. It's like a four-color brochure for dying young. Of course, for Pestilence, it's like Dollywood in there.
What in the hell?
Okay. So they go inside and we see them from the security cameras, and Dean opens the door to, like, the security guard's office, and he's like, hi, I'm looking for my grandmother, Eunice Kennedy. She's, like, you know, short with gray hair and wears diapers. And the guy's like, girl, just go ask the nurse at the front. And he's like, never mind, and then punches the guy. I'm like, why did he need to improv? Why didn't he just punch the guy?
Yeah, and why was he like, you know who would be a really good pull? Eunice Kennedy Shriver. What?
The show is insane. Like, the references are not just constant, they're insane.
Like that's such a... Also, no, I'm sorry, Dean is gay as hell for pulling up that reference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I'm just like, what? I don't know. Maybe I'm just not in touch with a lot of straight men at that age, but, like, that just...
It's weird.
Eunice Kennedy? Like...
It's weird.
I just think that's gay. I'm sorry. Sue me.
The woke mob.
Yeah, the woke mob is trying to sue me for calling Dean Winchester gay. Oh. Yeah, likely thing for me to do.
So Sam's like, when did you start doing improv? And Dean goes, that's the beauty of improv, Sam. You never know what's going to come out of your mouth.
Oh my god, I really can't talk about improv right now. Can we get Dean Winchester on a Dropout show?
No, because as someone
can we get Dean Winchester
on
can we get him on Make Some Noise quickly?
Does Dean Winchester know what a herald is? Does he know?
I can't have this conversation with you. I really can't do this.
Guys, if you didn't know, I used to do improv in the New York City improv scene.
What?
So...
No. Who was shocked? Raise your hand if you were shocked.
Okay.
Notably, my hand is not raised. peace and love. If you do improv and you're listening, I love you. Don't take this as me hating on you personally.
The worst part about improv is that it's a lot like Supernatural and that I enjoyed myself a lot, but I felt like shit though when I did it. Like, I was like...
I do like extended conversations on improv, notes on improv.
Like, Dean was meant to be that really annoying guy in your improv class that makes too many pop culture references instead of doing something that his scene partner can yes and off of. But instead he was hunting demons.
That is actually an epidemic in improv where it's like the guy who thinks he's really funny by being like, I've seen Star Wars, and you're like, right, like, okay, yeah. In what way is that a joke? It's very Big Bang Theory comedy. Maybe we should do like, I was going to say let's get into improv comedy, but what is a podcast if not improv comedy? We're
saying yes and to Supernatural.
Yeah, I'm saying no but though. I feel like that's my role on this podcast.
Fuck. Oh, and here's the thing. I do think Dean would be bad at improv. I think Sam would be good at improv.
I low-key think they would both be bad at improv, but Dean would enjoy it and Sam would be mortified.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dean would be embarrassed that he enjoys it.
Yeah, he would be trying to play it off like he didn't, but it's very clear that he's having the time of his life. Because he's getting to pretend to be someone else.
Hot take. I think Cass would love it. Would he be good at it? No, but he'd love it.
I don't think he'd understand improv. I think he'd just go up and he'd go, okay, I can see this scene clear as day. In Supernatural season 16, there's a ghost in an improv show. And Cass goes up on stage and just starts he starts interacting with the actors with just things that he would say.
Oh.
And he's just being himself, but everyone thinks it's so funny because of his charm and perceived whimsy.
Okay. So, anyways, back at... yes and.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry for that long-ass improv conversation we just had.
We had to, unfortunately. But, so, Sam and Dean are sitting there watching the surveillance cameras. They're fucking falling asleep. And Sam's like, okay, but, like, what are we looking for? And Dean, genius that he is like, well, he's pestilent, so he probably looks sick. You don't know that? Are you stupid?
But I guess, to be fair, that logic tracks because when they had the fuck-ass 7 Deadly Sins episode, they all looked exactly how you would have expected them to look.
But not all the horsemen did. Like, War was just some guy.
That's true. They all do just kind of look like some guy.
Except for, what's his name?
Famine.
Famine, yeah.
Famine was... So, but I guess because based on what Famine was, it would make sense for them to think Pestilence is like some, like, Typhoid Mary-esque figure.
Yeah, I guess.
I just think it's crazy that all of the horsemen are white dudes in their 40s.
Well...
I mean...
They might have ate that one
Is that not one of the most evil class of people?
Yeah. So... He's like, he's pestilent, so he probably looks sick. And Sam's like, everybody looks sick. It's a nursing home. And they keep watching. And then this one doctor walks out of an office, and there's this distortion line across the screen. And whenever he turns towards the camera, and they're like, that's him.
Distortion? That's just
no.
like the Magnus Archives.
So then we cut to, it's the scene from the beginning of the episode again, where the doctor is walking in to see this woman and he's like, hey, and it cuts off before it plays the whole thing again. But we see Sam and Dean, they're sneaking around this nursing home with shotguns, as they do, even though I don't know that that's gonna do much. And they pass by an open room and there's a nurse standing by the bed and she's clearly sensing them. You're like, oh, she's something. She's clearly a demon. And she goes into the room with Dr. Green, who's Pestilence, and he's just sitting there with the Nickelodeon slime on his face after this woman died, and this nurse is like, hey, and then you see her eyes flash black. She's a demon, and she's like, hey, so the Winchesters are here, just letting you know, we gotta go. And he's like, why do you have to go? Good that they're here. And she's like, like, you saw what they've done before? And he was like, yeah, to my brothers. And he's getting pissed. And she's like, they have a track record with horsemen. And he's getting even more pissed. And she's like, and he's like, you know, well, let's make him real sick. And she's like, we're under strict orders not to kill the vessels from Lucifer. And Pestilence loses his mind. And he's like, well, if Satan wants them so bad, he can glue them back together. And you know what? I kind of respect this diva for that.
Yeah, he said that's so cool. I don't give corporate overlords really do overstep these days.
Yeah. And then he's hugging the demon, which is weird.
He's like, bring it in, sister.
It's so weird. And while he's hugging her, he like reaches over her and then you see him twist his ring and then it cuts to like an OR. I don't know why there's an OR at the nursing home. Don't ask. It cuts to an OR and these nurses and doctors start just falling to the floor. They're coughing, they're throwing up, they're whatever. Suddenly, Sam and Dean, they're coughing. They feel like shit. They're walking around. The world is spinning. Everything's bad. They're #struggling. The doctors and nurses are stumbling and falling over. People are bleeding. It's bad. And they get to the room where Pestilence is. And he's like, Sam! Dean! And Sam's like, I got it, guys. And he tries to step over the threshold with the demon knife. And he just drops to the floor. And he's like, come right in. And then Sam falls. It's like very supposed to be funny. And they wake up and he's like, you boys don't look so well. Maybe it's the scarlet fever or the meningitis or the syphilis. And you're like, oh my God. And he's like, however you feel right now, it's going to get so much worse. And he goes into this monologue where he says, he's like, disease gets a bad rap. People think it's dirty. People think it's filthy. But disease itself is very pure. It's very single-minded. Bacteria, they divide and multiply. And I was like, well, some diseases, viruses. So jot that one down. Also, some of them is prions. Maybe you should learn about prion diseases, Pestilence. Actually, don't. That would be pretty bad.
Why are you, on his side? You're giving him ideas.
Forget I said that. He's actually listening to our podcast.
He's actually, one of our number one fans. He's been here since day one.
He does this whole speech, and at the end, he's like, well, disease, it always wins at the end of the day. And he brings in a thing about how he's like, when God created these beings and wants to give them all this love, and I try to teach him over and over again that, they're weak and, anything can take them down and the disease always wins. And all I can do is show God he's wrong, one epidemic at a time. Which is kind of a sick line, I'm not gonna lie. Sick? Haha! Anyways, so then, guess who shows up in the door? It's Cass! To save the boys. But as soon as he walks in the door, Pestilence has made him sick too. And Pestilence is like, oh my God, you're an occupied vessel, but you're powerless. That's fascinating. And they're like, how did you get here? And Cass is like, I took a bus. And he's like, oh, Pestilence is like, not a speck of angel in you. Okay, well. And Cass, in a very badass moment, then attacks Pestilence and cuts off his finger with the ring on it. And he goes, maybe just a speck. He kind of ate that. And as Pestilence is dying and about to disappear, because you can't really kill him, he goes, doesn't matter. It's too late. And they're like, what the fuck does that mean? And suddenly they're better, I guess. We cut to, we're back at Bobby's house. Everybody's back at Bobby's house. Bobby's like, well, it's nice to actually score a home run for once, isn't it?
It wouldn't have been really funny if they had had them keep all of those diseases and now they have to fight Satan with
syphilis.
They're like
yeah. Dean's brain is being rotted from the inside by syphilis. I know there's a fic about that.
Okay. What if you're writing fic about Dean having syphilis? Good for you, honestly. God bless you, because your mind is beautiful and very interesting.
That's actually what Pestilence is doing.
That is true.
So Bobby's talking, and he's like, okay, Chicago's about to be wiped off the map. And in this moment, I said, that's why we need a Chicago Pope.
No, the fact that the whole premise of this episode is that they're like, we are looking for the Horseman Death. He's in Chicago, and everyone in Chicago is going to die. I'm like, Leo, get out while you can. Run.
Leo,
you need to go.
He was elected to counteract this.
No, that's what... Okay, that happened in 2010. I don't even know if he was there in 2010.
Yeah, he was in Peru.
But he's American by... I saw an amazing tweet that was like, he's American by birth, but Peruvian by choice. And I'm like, period.
Okay.
No,
also, this is our first American Pope, so I have to ask you a question. Do you think he's seen Supernatural?
You know... and that's a really good question. And what we need to stay curious. I'm just more concerned about his opinion on sport peppers. Do you know what sport peppers are, Claudia?
It's some Chicago bullshit, isn't it?
They go on a Chicago dog, okay?
What the fuck
they're turning the Vatican into a Portillo's.
I don't ascribe to anything from Chicago. I'm an East Coast girl. The fact that they bring a deep dish to the Vatican.
Yeah. But I feel like he must have seen, if he's been in America in the last, like, 10, 15 years, he has to have seen it on reruns. I think, okay, I feel like we need all, like, the Pope, and I feel like we need all world leaders to have, like, a Letterboxd and, like, a Goodreads. Like, I need to see what his opinion. I know that he and a bunch of other cardinals watched Conclave before the actual Conclave, and I'm like, I need to know, like, what, like, I don't even care if they liked it or not. I just want to see, like, their ratings and see which ones watched it.
Grant us a dean who doubts.
A dean?
A Dean Winchester.
Grant us a dean who doubts may need to be the title of this episode.
I'm so sorry I derailed you with that.
We have to talk about Supernatural.
You have to talk about Supernatural. Anyway, so they're talking about how Chicago's gonna get wiped off the map.
The crazy butterfly effect of Dean Winchester being born. American Pope. He saved him.
We're gonna have to make that meme of the domino effect. American Pope.
Dean Winchester born. American Pope.
Oh my god, according to the lore of Supernatural, Dean is already dead by now, so he wouldn't even know the Pope was American.
No.
Because you know he would be making jokes about that. This is also where we have a shot of Castiel sitting in the corner in the bisexual sit, kind of giving, like, he's giving the thinker, like, whatever, and he's like, I don't understand your definition of good news, because Bobby's like, well, the good news is, and because Bobby's like, okay, well, the good news is that, yes, Chicago is about to be wiped off the map, but Death, the final horseman whose ring we need to get, is gonna be there so we can get the ring, and he's like, I'm trying to put a spin on it. Like, can you guys give me a break here? Bobby's so fucking funny in these episodes. And they're like, how do you know this? And he's like, I had, help. And suddenly you see someone behind them pouring a glass of whiskey. Scotch, is it? I don't know.
It's Scotch, I think.
It's Scotch.
And
Guys,
I'm not joking. This is maybe one of the best scenes in all of Supernatural.
It really is. It really fucking is. And of course it's Crowley. And he's like, don't be so modest. I barely helped at all. And he goes to drink the scotch, and it's, like, disgusting because, Bobby drinks whatever the fuck. And he's like, ugh. And he goes to put it down. And they're like, tell us what?
Because just to be clear, just so that we're all... Because I know we had a long-ass tangent in the middle of this scene. Basically, Bobby is like, oh, Chicago's gonna get wiped off the map, and Death is gonna be there. And the boys are like, how did you know that?
Yeah.
Like,
and Bobby's like, okay, so world's gonna end. It seems stupid to get all precious over one little soul. And Sam, I mean immediately, Sam's response is, did you kiss him? Which is exactly what we would say.
Mm-hmm. And I literally texted Claudia before this scene resolved. I said, bet Crobby is canonically kissed.
Like,
because I completely forgot this next scene.
And Bobby's rolling his eyes. He's like, no. And then Crowley just pulls out his iPhone 2. his iPhone 2. His tiny ass iPhone. And there's a picture. You can look it up. It exists.
It's
He shows
really
a picture
good.
of him and Bobby kissing, and he took like a selfie of them while they were kissing.
And it is so funny. The thing he says next is demented.
Bobby's like, "Why'd you take a picture?" And Crowley goes, "Why'd you use tongue?"
The fact that, like, Crowley has made, he's the quote-unquote king of the crossroads, and he's made 2 deals that we've seen, and both of them have involved him kissing men on screen. I just, no, because Bobby, the latent homosexuality in Bobby Singer cannot be undersold.
It's like, where do you think Sam and Dean get it? Their biological father, Bobby.
Yeah.
So Crowley's like, he calls Sam Gigantor, which is funny, and they get in a big fight because they're like, "Bobby, you sold your soul," and they're like, give his soul back, Crowley, and he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna give it back. All he did was pawn it off." And they're like, "Give it back," and he's like, "No, I'm using Bobby's soul as insurance because you guys could kill me at any given moment. I'm gonna give it back. That's the deal." And they're all pissed, and we cut to Dean is working on the car outside, and I think Sam walks up, and Dean's like, "Let me guess, we're about to have a talk." And I was like, well, that's the show in a nutshell. And Sam goes on this whole speech where he's like, "I agree with you. You think I'm too weak to take on Lucifer. So do I. But I'm all we have. There's just me. I don't know what else to do." And Dean's like, no. And then Crowley walks up and he's like, "And scene."
He's just like the best, such a good character.
Fuck,
he's like one of the best characters ever.
Yeah. And he hands the boys a printed fucking newspaper, and he's like, "There's something you need to see." And they're like, I don't get it. And he's like, "You two are lucky you have your looks." And he's like, "Sam, your demon boyfriend at Nevaeh Pharmaceuticals, clock in." And Sam's like, "I don't." Sam is like so averse to being gay that he like doesn't clock it at first. And then he goes, "Nevaeh Pharmaceuticals," which, if you remember from the episode where Sam finds out that one of his college friends was a demon the whole time, and that demon now has a career in pharmaceuticals and works for the Horsemen, that they have been developing a vaccine, quote unquote, for the swine flu that's going around because of Pestilence, but in reality they're filling it with Croatoan virus to make everyone into zombies. And Crowley's like, "Oh yeah, I see the abacus clicking," like, which is so
damn.
And he's like, "Yeah, so the real plan was Pestilence makes everybody sick, and then they make everybody into zombies this way." And I'm like, why do they need to do that? Everybody's gonna die from Michael and Lucifer fighting anyway, but like, okay, I guess. And this is where it gets a little anti-vax, but I think in the way that Ollie said earlier, it's anti-vax by accident, because what the show relies on is that America is a society that trusts vaccines enough to slip this under the radar. The problem is, if this came out, as we saw with the COVID pandemic, a bunch of people, even though it would prevent them from getting swine flu, would reject getting the fucking vaccine. So unfortunately, yeah. I think Pestilence is an idiot.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I think,
American ingenuity.
Pestilence was there right for the time. Because the other thing, too, with the Croatoan virus is that it's, like, incredibly contagious in Supernatural. Yeah. So it's, like, I think that it's, like, if they were able to get it to a large enough swath, it would spread. Yeah. But I do think it is one of those things where it's, like, you know, at that point in history, like, obviously there have always been anti-vax people, but the movement was not to the point where it was, like, institutional until very recently.
Yeah.
Or at least not institutional at the level that it is now.
Yeah,
so.
And it's pre, like, social media also, in a way that, or social media as it is now. So Crowley's like, you know, next week we're all going to be in Zombieland, so get ready. And then suddenly, one of the second best scenes in Supernatural begins, which, before the scene even changes over, the song "Oh Death" starts playing, and I immediately was like, oh, fuck yeah! I was so ready for this.
I'm like, this is just like Until Dawn. No, it's not. That song has existed before Until Dawn. Yeah. If anything, Until Dawn plagiarized Supernatural. Oh, you know, by using a Appalachian folk song.
Yeah.
you know.
So
Interesting.
the song.
Well, I mean, Until Dawn did plagiarize Supernatural in many ways, because they also had a creature that we probably shouldn't talk about because it's not from either of our cultures.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. No. Let's not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Oh Death starts playing, and everything is in slow motion, and we are clearly now on the streets of Chicago. It is daytime, and you see a big old white Mustang drive up. And if you remember the Four Horsemen, they ride in on what? Their horses. So in Supernatural, they're in Mustangs. And the final horseman, Death, is clearly in a white Mustang. And he gets out, and it's all in slow motion. It's a really cool scene. And he's walking down the windy streets of Chicago. It's clearly a set that's not actually Chicago, which I think is funny. And he's walking by. A guy bumps into him in slow motion, and he just, like, flicks his shoulder, and then the guy, like, falls over and has a heart attack. And he just has this badass, one of the best character introductions, other than Crowley kissing a man under an underpass. This is one of the best character introductions I've ever seen. And honestly, it makes me so mad how they fuck with Death's character after this, because his character is one of the most interesting and, like, well, I was like, whoever thought of this intro cooked.
Yeah. No, I think that it's a very, like, it's a very well, very well conceptualized scene. Like, it was almost one of those ones where you think, like, when they came up with an idea to do the Horsemen, they had this scene in mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a Phil Segricia episode. He directed it, and I feel like he consistently is a pretty good director. Like, he gets a pretty good performance, but also has some I think has some very good, like, shots.
Yeah. So after this, we cut back to a scene with Bobby and Cass, which we don't get a lot. Where
I really enjoyed seeing those two interact and kind of be, like, on the same team in these two episodes.
Yeah. And Bobby and Cass are, like, preparing for the zombie apocalypse. And Cass seems upset, and Bobby's like, what's your problem? And Cass is like, you know, this is what they mean by the 11th hour. And in the 11th hour, I'm useless. And Bobby's like, I'm literally in a wheelchair. You're gonna bitch to me? And I was like, damn, disabled on disabled violence happening right now. And he goes, quit pining for the varsity years and load the damn truck. He's like, screw your head on straight, gay boy.
He also, like, he's holding a gun, and he's like, okay, you have firepower, bitch. Like, sorry that you're just like everyone else right now. Don't sit here and talk shit to me.
He's just like every other beach. And suddenly we see that Dean and Crowley are gonna go try and kill Death. And Cass, Sam, and Bobby are gonna go stop the zombie apocalypse, I guess. I don't know why they decided to split it up that way.
I was worried that I missed something.
Yeah.
But I guess I was worried that I missed, like, them deciding why they were gonna go in those teams, but I think Crowley just wanted to spend time with Dean. He's trying to kiss all of them. He's trying to collect the whole set.
No, literally. He's trying to fuck that whole family.
Fuck. Crowley. Guys, is it just me, or is Crowley a little problematic? You say about the guy who was watching, like Nazi propaganda footage in his introduction.
Yeah. Hashtag not my Crowley. So they split up into these two teams, and they're like, well, good luck stopping the zombie apocalypse. And they're like, good luck killing Death. Which I think is funny because they do eventually kill Death. Both versions. And Sam says a really funny line where he goes, remember when we used to just hunt the monster that starts with a W that we shouldn't say the name, but we say it in the show anyway? The one from episode 2 that's a native thing that you shouldn't say the name. He says that, and it's actually a quite funny moment. And they're like, okay, like, who's gonna have, like, the demon knife? What are you gonna actually use to try and cut off the finger of Death? And Sam goes to give the demon knife to Dean, and Crowley's like, no, Dean has his own, and he pulls out a fucking Reaper, like the Grim, as in the Grim, a scythe. That's what I meant. a scythe. And they're like, where the fuck did you get that? And he's like, I'm the king of the crossroads. Again, that doesn't really explain anything. How did he get it? And let me tell you, the episode does not explain. It does not explain where the fuck he got it. Wait. Remember when he made the joke Deus Ex Bobby na? Deus Ex Crowley na?
Deus Ex Crowley na is really good. I mean, I feel like okay, and okay, I had a thought that I'm like, no, certainly not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how did Crowley get it?
He fucked Death?
Couple years back was like, hey man, hey girl, do you wanna? They hook up. Crowley goes to leave the next leave like after, waits for Death to be asleep, gets up, snoops around his house. Okay. Snoops around his place, goes through his medicine cabinet, and then takes the scythe.
Okay, you know, and what I think maybe what they're implying with what we find out later in the episode is that because Death doesn't want to be working for Satan, much like Crowley doesn't. So I think they're on the same, I think the implication is they're on the same side and he gave it to him. Also because that leads Dean to death.
Interesting.
I think that's also what the next scene where he goes in and then leaves also implies.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't think about it that way. I don't know if that's like the intended.
I don't think it is.
But I think that's actually a really interesting reading of it, though.
Like, fuck, that would make the most sense because they have similar motivations. So that could be, that's what I'm thinking. So, then, Crobby is so fucking real because Crowley goes, so Bobby, you just gonna sit there? And Bobby's like, I'm in a wheelchair. I ain't gonna river dance, which I think is funny. And Crowley's like, well, to impress the ladies. Looking at the rest of the men there. Like, I'm like, oh my God. They're flirting. And he's like, well, Bobby, you know you could have asked for more in our deal if you worded it right. But because I'm generous, I added a sub-A clause in our contract. And Bobby's like, what? And he's like, go ahead. Like, just gonna sit there? And suddenly you see Bobby start to move his feet and get up and stand. And Dean and Sam are like, what the fuck? And Crowley's like, what? I'm an altruist. Clearly he wants Bobby in fighting shape to win. But also, he added that in for Pookie? Like,
yeah. It's just crazy how much chemistry he has with all of them.
It's like crazy.
They could not have cast a better person to play
this
character.
Too good for him. Also, he wants Bobby. Actually, what I wrote in my notes was he wants Bobby to fuck him so bad.
Okay, I don't think we need to get into like top bottom Crobby discourse.
Come on, there doesn't need to be discourse. It's quite obvious. I think we can all agree.
Apartment complex, it's really quite simple.
Like, which one is the top, which one is the bottom? You tell me, girl. Like, anyway.
I almost said something that I'm like, no.
No, now you have to say it.
Well, I'm gonna cut it out, but I was like, stone top Bobby. And I was like, okay, not his words.
I mean, I think he's a he-him lesbian.
Interesting.
He-him lesbian Bobby.
Okay.
He-him lesbian
which is
now Bobby.
Which is now you've introduced the idea of stud Rufus, which I'm very interested in.
He-him lesbian stone top Bobby, stud Rufus, and pillow princess Crowley.
Okay.
I've cracked a code. Holy shit.
Guys, I've just received a text message from my spouse who was outside of the room who said, quote, Bobby is not a top with the devil emoji.
Yeah, well,
like the little purple one.
But Mel doesn't know Crowley.
They don't know Bobby like we do. And
no.
I feel like Bobby, he has
Bobby's
to be
top.
Here's the problem. I just don't think Crowley is. You know what, though? He could be, actually.
I think he could be, but he would hate it the whole time.
because I could see him being like, but I feel like he's kind of the kind of guy who's like, have to be in control at my job all the time. I just want to let go.
Exactly.
And Bobby's like, I can do that for you.
Exactly. Wait, now I need to
Okay,
look for
well, Mel
Crobby
just
fan.
texted me. Guys, I have an update. My spouse texted me. Oh, I thought y'all were talking about Bobby Nash. My bad. So, I don't know why we would be talking about Bobby Nash during our Supernatural podcast.
What do you think?
But I do agree, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's getting pegged. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And if he wouldn't get fired for it, he would say, proudly be like, I get pegged by Athena Grey.
Yeah, he's just so bisexual to me, and he just never brings it up.
I feel like Buck came out to him, and he was like, well, everybody be a little bisexual sometimes.
No,
Buck was like,
literally,
what?
he's like, I feel like he's saying that in casual conversation, and everyone at the 118 is like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, well, we've all had experiences with men. And you're like, huh?
I had to look up Crabby on There's only 1,000 Crabby fics on AO3.
Are you serious?
There's only 1,000.
That is crazy.
A lot of them are just Crobby in the background. Also,
That's
Loki /
really
Metatron.
insane. What?
Bitch.
Oh my god, sorry. I feel like there should be way more Crobby fanfictions. That feels like unethical.
Yeah, that's so...
Considering there's what, like over 100,000, like 110,000 Supernatural fanfictions. Like the fact that that's like crazy. That's like less than 1%.
You would think there would at least be more Crobby in the background of Castiel fics too.
Yeah. Or even like Winchester, like even just general, like
yeah.
You'd expect Crobby to be. We're never making it through this episode, guys.
Well, the problem is that there's both Castiel and Crobby to talk about.
Yeah.
It's okay. Remember, this is a season finale, so we get to say whatever the fuck we
Yeah.
want.
That's so true.
Okay. Sorry. I just got distracted by he wants Bobby to fuck him so bad. Okay.
Actually, you don't need to take notes anymore.
Now it's too detailed. So they cut to, they're in the car, and clearly Sam has been telling Cass about his plan of like, I'm gonna take in Lucifer, and then I'm gonna try and take over and then jump into the pit. And he's like, you think that's a really bad idea, right? And Cass is like, oh, I mean, I'm happy to say that if that's what you want me to hear. It's honestly, in this past episode, and like maybe even the one before it, Cass is very much giving like autistic person learning how to interact with neurotypicals, where he's like, I know that you want me to say that, right? He said it like multiple times. He says shit like this. And
he's learning how to mask.
He's learning how to I'm like, no, they're corrupting him. So Cass then he's like, you know what? Actually, I do think it's a good plan. And he says, you and Dean have a habit of exceeding my expectations. And I was like, oh, my heart, it's breaking in two. Like, and then he's like, okay, well, Michael has found another vessel. It's your brother Adam. And they're like, yeah, we kind of already know that. But oh shit, Adam's alive.
The whole thing with Adam was that they were like, oh, Adam's not, like, the whole thing with Adam was, it was like, oh, Adam isn't can't actually be the vessel.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, I guess we can, because we didn't think of like an alternative.
Well, maybe that was Zachariah's idea, but then the rest of heaven was like, okay, well, we actually don't have any other options, so.
Like, he kind of cooked with that.
Yeah. And then Cass says, there's also the demon blood. So to make sure that the vessel doesn't explode, you have to drink gallons of this. Like, he immediately cuts to, we gotta fill up Sam like a fucking Capri Sun. And they're like, okay. So the three of them show up at the distribution center for the vaccines, and Bobby's like, okay, we're gonna plant the C4, we're gonna blow it up, whatever. And then Cass is like, one of the trucks is already leaving. So they're like, okay, fuck. Before it leaves the parking lot, they attack the driver, they attack the gates to stop the truck, and all hell starts to break loose. A couple of the drivers and the people in the plant are already demons. And then we cut to the demons inject one of the workers with the Croatoan virus, and they're like, here's a little something for Sam and Dean. They're like, oh, the Winchesters are here. And they run it. Sam and Bobby run in, and they shoot the guy with the croatoan who goes to attack them. But then they hear this woman yelling, like, "Help me!" And Bobby's like, you know, this is obviously a trap. And Sam's like, I don't care. I have to save, like, the innocent people. And Bobby's like, girl, like, don't leave me. And the demon comes up behind Bobby. He kills him. And they're going through it. They're having their no good, very bad day. And then we cut to Dean and Crowley. And they're walking in some sort of industrial park. And they're clearly in Chicago. And Crowley's like, we should stop for pizza. I heard it's good. He's asking Dean on a date. And Dean's like, hello? Like, what? And Crowley's like, oh, well, over there in that building is Death's ground zero, his headquarters. And Dean's like, how do you know that? And Crowley's like, because I know. Also, I can see that there's Reapers everywhere. And you see Crowley's vision, and there's just Reapers standing everywhere. And I'm like, given what we know about Reapers, don't they have, like, a lot of work to do? Why are they just standing there like crows? Like, okay.
It was an interesting shot, though. We saw, like, the camera was, like, next to Dean, like, coming from behind Dean. And then it pans behind him and comes out on the other side, and you're on, like, the side Crowley is standing on. Yeah. And you can see that there's a bunch of Reapers standing there. Yeah. It was very interesting.
And then suddenly Crowley's gone. He went in to check it out. And then he comes back, like, seconds later. And he's like, oh, I was wrong. Let's go. And Dean's like, what? Bobby sold his soul for this. Like, what do you mean you're wrong? And Crowley's like, don't worry. I'll give him his soul back, restore credit, whatever. Let's go check the next Doom City. Bye. And Dean's like, huh. This is where I was like, oh, maybe he's in league with Death or something.
Yeah, because Dean's also like, girl, Chicago. And Crowley's like, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We cut back to the warehouse. A Croatoan guy is attacking this worker who was the woman who was yelling for help. Sam rescues a bunch of them and keeps getting people out of the warehouse. And, you know, I thought to myself, I was like, is this the most efficient way they could have done this? What I would have done was played the exorcism over the loudspeakers. Or filled the sprinklers with holy water. I literally had that
exact same thought where I was like, why don't they just start... Like, if I was them, I would just have it, like, preloaded onto some sort of MP3 player.
And granted,
or,
not
like, they
all
have
of them
memorized.
Not all
like,
of
just
them
start
are
saying
demons.
it.
Not all of them are demons, but, like, I don't know. So, it's just stupid.
This is the point of the show where it's like, I started really last season, but it was like where they just start killing the vessels and are like, whatever.
You're like, they don't care. And Sam is getting these people out, and Bobby just kind of gives him this look. And he'll explain what it is later. And we cut back to Dean and Crowley. They're in the car, and Dean is like, they're on a street in Chicago. And Dean's like, I guess we need to call in a bomb threat, 1,000 bomb threats. How do you get 3 million people out of Chicago in an hour? And Crowley is like, don't worry. And then suddenly poofs out of the car. And Dean's like, where the fuck did he go? And then he's across the street in front of some sort of, like, dive bar, pizza place. And he turns to Dean, and the windows are closed. And he's mouthing. He's like, I found him. And Dean's like, what? I can't hear you. And then Crowley is poofs back in the car. And he's like, I said I found him. And then Dean's like, okay, fine. He gets out of the car. And he's like, are you coming? And then suddenly Crowley's not there. Crowley's like, I'm outie. So we cut back. Bobby is killing demons. Sam is taking more people out of the building. But Sam gets attacked by a Croatoan guy who is, like, choking him, threw him to the ground. And then that guy gets shot by someone. And who is it? It's Cass. Now, I don't know what Cass was doing before, but they had to show him being a badass. And Cass...
just hanging out, fingers in his ass. He didn't care.
Cass looks at the gun, and it's giving very Obi-Wan and Revenge of the Sith, being, like, so uncivilized. But the opposite where he goes, actually, these things can be useful. I just think that the fact that Dean missed the time that Cass used a gun for the first time, it would have been... sad. Castiel would have been canon then.
Mm-hmm.
So Bobby says, can we commit our act of domestic terrorism already and go to blow up all the vaccines?
That literally happened on 911.
Fuck!
Like, I'm not
You're
joking.
right.
Literally, a character in 911, they were gonna, like, use a vaccine that was, like, being tested. And they were like, if you do this, you will be considered a domestic terrorist. And then they dropped all the charges, so it's whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, when I was thinking the whole time, I was like, okay, Sam and Dean are supposed to be dead, but Bobby, like, can we wear masks? Like, girl, the security cameras. Like, I don't know. So, we cut back. Dean sneaks into this bar, and he's like, don't be suspicious, and there's dead people everywhere. And then there is Death himself sitting at a table, and Dean, like, sneaks up behind him. And he has...
It's not a bar, it's like a pizzeria.
Yeah,
It's like a restaurant.
It's a pizzeria.
I think it has a bar in it, but...
Yeah. And he has the scythe in his hand, and it starts to sizzle and get warm, and Dean has to drop it. And Death, without turning around, is like, thanks for returning that. And you're like, how did Crowley steal it? As we said, because they fucked. But whatever. And he goes, join me, Dean. The pizza's delicious. I think the scariest part about Death is that he prefers deep dish. So jot that one down.
I mean, I think that's very powerful. I mean, he's a lot like the Pope in that way.
So Dean walks up slowly. Death is eating his deep dish with his fork and knife. And he's like, it took you long enough to find me. I've been meaning to talk to you. And Dean's like, is this the part where you kill me? And the storm that's about to wipe out Chicago, it is thunderstorming outside. Like, the shit's bad outside. And Death gives this whole speech where he's like, you have an inflated sense of importance to a thing like me, a thing like you. Think of it as if a bacterium sat down with you and started getting snarky. And he talks about how he's very old, and he's like, you're from this tiny planet in this tiny solar system with a galaxy that's still in its diapers, and I'm older than God. And he's like, anyways, Dean, eat your pizza. And he gives him a slice of pizza. And Dean, absolutely terrified, has to start eating his pizza, which I think is such a funny fucking scene. And he's like, it's good, right? Death is like, it's good, right? And Dean's like, uh-huh. And Dean's like, how old are you? And Death is like, as old as God, maybe older. Neither of us can remember anymore. Regardless, at the end, I reap him too. God will die too, Dean. And I thought that was pretty sickening, given the fact that Dean is the one who kills him in the end. That was pretty sickening. I do think it kind of sucks that with all the stupid bullshit that happens later, with this line, it would be very cool of seeing, God and Death, because whatever. Eventually, they're like, oh no, God has a sister.
Right.
Yeah, where's Amara mentioned? Whatever the fuck. Anyways, and Dean goes, this is way above my pay grade. And Death is like, yeah, just a bit. And he gets into, and Dean's like, okay, what do you want? And Death is like, I want the leash around my neck off. Lucifer has me under his spell. You think something as powerful and old as me, I'm different than the other horsemen. It all comes back to me. You think something as powerful and old as me would willingly work for him? He has me under some stupid fuck-ass spell. He made me his weapon. Hurricanes, floods. I'm more powerful than you can process, and he has me enslaved to a child having a tantrum. And you're like, oh? And Dean's like, you want me to unbind you? And he's like, there you go with your bravado. No, I want you to take the bullets out of his gun. And he's like, and Death is like, okay, I understand that you want this. And he shows him the ring. And I'm inclined to give it to you. And Dean is like, well, what about Chicago? And Death just goes, I suppose it can stay. I like the pizza.
He's so cunty. This scene is so good.
It's so good. And Death is like, okay, there's conditions. You have to do whatever it takes to put Lucifer in his cell. Whatever it takes. That means, Dean, your brother, he's the one who can stop Lucifer. He's the only one. You think. He's like, I know. I need a promise that you're going to let your brother jump right into that fiery pit. And my thing is, why would you trust Dean's pinky promise? It's Dean fucking Winchester. You know him.
Yeah, notorious liar Dean Winchester. Like, what in the... No. Well, because I think, to be fair, Death is also, like, I'm Death. Like,
yeah.
I'm fucking Death. What are you gonna do, lie to me?
Yeah, which is funny, given the number of times that Dean dies. And it's a deal with Death, baby. And...
I mean, this is literally, you can't cheat Death, you
yeah.
know?
And he said
Even though Dean Winchester's like, anyway, so I cheated Death.
Yeah, so Dean's like, okay, yeah. And Death is like, that's a yes, right? remember, you can't cheat death, which is crazy considering he dies a million times, which also is brought up in the last season. And then he's like, okay, now, do you want the instruction manual on how to open it? And then it cuts to a shot from outside the pizza parlor, and he's clearly telling him something. So we're back at Bobby's place. Dean is sitting outside where they fix the cars. He's looking at the rings. He's magnetizing them together. It's giving fidget toy.
So he puts, like, there's the 4 rings, right? And there's 1 ring in the center, and then the 3 rings, like, connect to it.
Yeah.
And it literally looked like there's a part where he's holding it. I was like, that looks like a fidget spinner.
No, Claire said the same thing. It was like, fidget spinner?
The Devil's Fidget Spinner is a really...
Fuck, we're gonna have to call that episode The Devil's Fidget Spinner.
We have so many titles, and so many titles in contention.
We should make our audience vote.
We're not doing a poll. This is not a democracy.
That's true. It's a dictatorship.
Correct.
We're kind of giving the Roman Empire and that we're like 2 rulers together. You know what I mean?
And that worked out really well for them.
Well, we're watching Supernatural. We're already writing our own death certificate, so. I literally, what did I say when I finished watching this episode? I said I felt like my brain was leaking out of my ears. So, anyways, so this scene. So Bobby walks up, and Dean says, "How did the Rockettes audition go?" And Bobby says, High kicks fair, boobs need work. Bitch, what the fuck?
I like the idea the next time we see Bobby, he's got a set of big naturals.
Bobby Big Natural.
Bobby's Big Naturals is also a really good title. Damn.
It's like those Gandalf Big Naturals, but it's Bobby.
Exactly. Guys, if someone knows how to Photoshop,
if you use AI, we'll kill you.
Okay, well, we won't kill anybody.
I'm joking for legal purposes, or am I?
Yes. No. She's joking. We're not going to kill you, but we will be very disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, and what's worse than having 2 supernatural podcasters disappointed in you?
Well, if you've listened this far, that might mean something.
Fuck. Okay, so there's so many insane jokes in this episode. So Bobby, he's like, and Dean's like, "How are you doing?" And Bobby's like, "I walked up and down the stairs all night for no damn reason, and I'm sore, but I feel good. But end of the world, so I guess fuck it." And he's like, "Here, have a beer." And so they sit down and have some beers, and Bobby's like, "Death, he told you how to operate those, right?" And Dean's like, "Yeah, but now I have bigger problems, because what do you think Death does to people who lie to his face?" I'm like, damn, he didn't even waste any time. And Bobby's like, "Okay, but think about it, though. Like, Death is probably right." Like, and Dean's like, "I don't believe his sob story for a second." And Bobby's like, "Are you sure? Like, it makes a lot of sense." And then Bobby says, "I ain't saying Sam ain't ass full of character defects, but he saved all these civilians. This moment when he's like, he went in and out of the building a million times to save all these people. We're hard on him, Dean, but in the meantime, he's been running into burning buildings since he was, 12? And I was like, oh, that hurt.
Oh, Sam Winchester.
And he says, "Sam's got a darkness in him, but he's got a hell of a lot of good in him, too." And I was like, oh, that shit hurt.
No. This was such a relief because I feel like we always say, like, at the end of the day, like, Sam has all this shit going against him, but at the end of the day, everything he does comes from such an altruistic perspective.
Yeah.
And not just, like, I want to do this for people I care about, but, like, Sam really cares about, like, people as a whole.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to see the show finally, like, really talk about that and be like, dang, like,
dog on him.
No, they do. And they're like, oh, Sam has all these issues. And it's like, yeah, but like 90% of the bad things he's done has been because he thought it would protect people.
Yeah.
And not just like, oh, it'll protect Dean. Oh, it'll protect Bobby. It'll protect like people in general.
Yeah.
He just cares about this.
Yeah. And then Bobby says some other heinous shit where he says, then you know Sam will be the devil or die trying, and that's the best we can ask for. And that's why I gotta ask Dean, what exactly are you afraid of? Losing or losing your brother? And then the episode fucking ends.
Mm.
I was like,
it's brutal.
Whoa.
It's so brutal.
Double homicide. Stop. He's already dead. It's fucking brutal. Like, and then the next episode is just as brutal. So
the next episode is worse. The tea with this episode is that it is the season 5 season finale, the last episode that Eric Kripke wrote. So keep that in mind. And many of you have absolutely seen GIFs or clips from this episode. It is like so well known. It's so influential. It has
so many
it has
scenes.
one line that I'm like, I think it was like a fucking bomb went off on the Supernatural merch factory, and they are still making shirts that say this. It's kind of like the new bitch and jerk sort of. So this is season 5, episode 22, Swan Song. We begin. We start with the road so far, but it's not like the regular road so far because this has.
Usually it says, not last week on, it says, it doesn't say the road so far or the last week on. It says it says previously on.
Like as like the here's what you missed. It says previously on. This time it says the road so far.
Yeah.
And then Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas starts to play. And you're like, oh god, supernaturaling. So that's playing. We see all of the crazy things from this season and from the last. And immediately from the start of this episode, you can tell that they are not planning on having another season of this show. You can tell that this is supposed to be the series finale.
Which makes watching it knowing that there are 10 more seasons even fucking funnier. Like, it gets fucking comical.
Yeah, because it is so clearly that they are like, okay, it's over. We start. We hear a narration and we see clips like vintage, like archive footage. And we hear whose voice? Chuck. And he says, April 21st, 1967. Goes on into this little narration talking about how GM's like 10 millionth car had just been like built in their factory. And it's a blue 2-door Caprice. 3 days later, another car that no one cared about was created, and that was like the Chevy Impala, and it's the car that the boys have. And he's like, and it might not be, many people don't know it, but it may be the most important car, or actually maybe the most important object of all time. It was first owned by Sal Moriarty, who would drive it around and give Bibles out to the poor. He said it was his plan to get him right before Judgment Day, and Sam and Dean don't know this, but if they did, they would laugh. Then it ended up in like a car lot, and it was purchased by John Winchester, which is where the story begins. And here's where it ends.
With generous help from a friend, which is a reference to Dean going back in
time.
And
we do
informing his father to buy the car.
We do see a clip of Dean in the past being like, get this car, diva. It's like, you can tell, like, okay, well, we're in finale territory now. We'll have to talk more about Chuck's role, especially at the end, because something happens at the end. We then cut. Sam is standing outside of, like, in the scrapyard at Bobby's place, and Dean walks up to him, and Dean's like, listen, your plan, yeah, like, okay, I'm agreeing with you. And Sam's like, wait, like, you agree that I should be the vessel? And Dean's like, well, no, if I'm honest, I don't, but you're a overgrown man. I'll back your play. you know, like, you can make your own decisions, basically. And he's like, you know, watching out for you was my job. It's kind of who I am. And I can't keep treating you like a kid. You know, maybe I'm the one who needs to grow up. But, you know, if anyone can do this, if anyone can stop the devil, it's you. And so Dean is like, he is agreeing. Like, okay, you know what? Fine. We gotta get kicking with it. And Sam's like, yeah, well, you know, like it's my responsibility, you know, like, because Dean's like, is this what you really want? And he's like, well, I'm the one who let him out. I think it's only right that I'm the one who puts him back in.
It sucks that Sam still blames himself for that. Like,
no, literally, especially because Dean was the one who broke the first seal, but it's like neither of them are at fault for that. Oh, it's just so fucked up. This whole episode is just so fucked up.
It's like, so fucked up.
It's so sad. So then we cut. They're trying to figure out, like, where is the devil? Because we need to find him so Sam can agree. Bobby is going over omens with Dean. He's like, okay, so I found this omen here and this here, and, like, there's this temperature change in Detroit. And Dean's like, wait, go back to Detroit. And he's like, oh yeah, the temperature dropped like 20 degrees, but only in this 5-mile radius. And Dean's like, that's where it is. Because if you'll recall in the episode The End, where he went to the future, Detroit was where their final showdown happened. Which is crazy, because why didn't he just say that in the first place?
I don't know.
But I digress. He's like, okay, that's where it is. And Bobby's like, well, okay, like...
Also, this is where he calls Bobby Yoda.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, you got it.
There's a lot of Star Wars references in this episode. It's very dark.
Yeah, there are. And there's one that I'm like,
what?
In what way is this character making that reference?
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, so they're going to go to Detroit. So Bobby gets in his van, and Sam, Dean, and Cass are driving in their car, in the Impala. And it's night. Cass is like conked out in the back seat. He's like snoring. And Dean looks back and he goes, oh, ain't he a little angel?
He thought he ate that one up.
He literally did. And Sam is like, yeah, clearly not as enthused. And Dean's like, what is it? And he's like, well, angels don't sleep. Because clearly Cass is drained. Like, Cass is basically human at this point. And Sam's like, that's not, like, helpful for us. Like, that's not good. Like, we fucked this guy's life up. And they kind of just start going back and forth. And Dean's like, okay, like, are we nervous? Like, what's the vibes? And Sam's like, I don't know. Like, we just got to go for it. And Dean's like, well, I hope he doesn't know about the rings. And Sam's like, well, I don't really know what there is we can do. But listen, things are going to get, like, pretty messed up. And you have to accept that I'm going to be gone. Like, I'm going to be going into this, and I'm not going to be coming back out if this goes to plan. So I don't want you to try to bring me back. I want you to, after this happens, I want you to pack it up, and I want you to go to Lisa. If y'all remember Lisa, she was a woman who Dean had hooked up with once, then reacquainted with when there was like a supernatural occurrence in her town, and she has a son who Dean thought maybe his, but wasn't. Which is crazy, because again, Dean's first love was Cassie, who was fighting the racist truck.
Yeah.
So the fact, like, I like Lisa, and I'm not someone who hates Lisa, but, like, because a lot of people have very conflicting opinions on Lisa, because she does become an important character. But, like, I don't have a problem with Lisa. I just think that it's crazy that Lisa is the person that...
It's very random. It's very much which one of the women who appeared could they get back as an actress. That's really all it is. And you're like,
and the fact that I think that low-key they didn't want to have Dean's long-term love interest be a black woman, but
that
who's
too.
to say?
That too.
Also,
how would Satan not know about the rings? Like, really?
No, literally, are they stupid?
It doesn't make sense.
Because the demon, okay, but they're having this conversation, and Sam's like, but you can't, like, go find Lisa and settle down with her and make a new life and be normal. And Dean's like, what? No, like.
Why wouldn't he settle down with Cass? Huh? Sam, you fucking homophobe?
Okay.
Sam, you're a fucking homophobe. Anyway.
Jesus. I will have thoughts about this, especially at the end of this episode. I have some crazy thoughts. But so Sam tells him to do this, and Dean's like, dude, no, like that's not what I agreed to. And he's like, when the cage closes, it is going to be too dangerous for you to come back for me. Like we are talking in the big leagues now. You cannot try to get like mess with it, because if Lucifer gets back out, like we're all fucked. And Dean's like, okay, well, like I didn't know. And he's like, no, you need to promise me. And he's like, okay, fine, I promise. So he agrees to Sam. Like, if this goes to plan, he'll go to Lisa. I also forgot to mention a scene right before this, the scene where before they leave, is Dean, Sam, Cass, and Bobby basically have captured demons and are bleeding them. So they have all these like gallon jugs of demon blood. So that happens. So now we cut. They're in Detroit. Yes.
This is a really big like Midwest city arc, because it goes from Chicago to Detroit.
Yeah. So they are in Detroit, and Bobby is like looking through some binoculars, and he's like, yeah, there's demons crawling like everywhere around this town. Like totally he's here. So Sam's like, okay. Yeah, and now we can tell Sam's saying his goodbyes because he's thinking it's over. And Bobby walks up to him and he goes, see you around, kid. And Bobby's like this close to losing it because that's his boy. And they're hugging, and he's basically like, once you start fighting, you don't stop fighting, okay? Oh, and it's just so brutal. And God, Misha Collins, the actor you are, because this next is Cass walks up, and Sam is like, hey, take care of these guys. And Cass looks at him and he goes, that's not possible. And he goes, okay, humor me. And he goes, oh, you want me to say what you want to hear? Sure. Yeah, they'll be fine. And he says it in that exact way. It's so... Cass
so
is like,
dark.
He's such a like cutie pie. It's so sad that he's in this situation. But they say all this stuff. It's all emotional. He walks over to Dean, who's standing at the back of the car, and the trunk is open. We see like it's like 5-ish like big milk jug gallon bottles of blood. And Sam, again, if you'll recall, he has to drink that in order to like house Lucifer in his body. Because they do talk a little bit about like, that's why they'd been feeding him the demon blood like since he was a kid, was so he could be Lucifer's vessel. Like that was one of the reasons why Ruby was getting him on the blood.
Which is also why I'm like, couldn't he have just been like sipping it through a straw through a Capri Sun while they were driving there? Like, why did he have to go to the back of the car and then keg stand chug all of them?
I wish they did this like a keg stand. That would be awesome.
Demon blood keg stand?
Demon blood keg stand is the great name for like a new metal band.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Sam has all this blood, and he goes down to drink it. And Dean's watching, and he goes, can I get a minute? Can I get some privacy? I'd prefer if you didn't watch. So Dean steps away. Sam picks up the bottle. And then we cut a couple minutes later, and it's clear he has drank all of it. He's like, all right.
Did you think about how much Sam would have to pee?
I was literally thinking about that. Luckily, he doesn't have to worry about that. I guess.
What if Lucifer has to pee? Like, Lucifer takes over and he's like, fuck, I have to piss.
But he's like, okay, let's do it. So he and Dean walk into this building, which is where they figured out, like, is in the center of this cold spot. They're like, okay, here's where Satan is. So they walk up to the front door, and Sam's like, hey, like, come on, come get me, I'm here. And a couple demons, like, come out, grab Sam and Dean, pull them up the stairs, and push them into this, like, decrepit room. And they they walk in, and Lucifer is standing there, and his vessel's all fucked up. It's clearly like he does not have a lot of time left with this vessel before it completely disintegrates. And they get thrown in, and Lucifer is like, oh, hey guys. And then it's a commercial break. And all of the commercial breaks in this episode are interspersed with, return from break is Chuck narrating a little piece of their lives. So, a little flashback, we get a little montage of a couple things the boys are doing in the Impala, and Chuck is like, the car, it has lots of things that are, lots of things that are standard for its type, and then lots of things that are different. But those aren't necessarily the things that are important. The stuff that's important is the army man Sam crammed in the ashtray, or the Legos that Dean stuffed into the vents. And, whenever they turn on the heating, they still hear these Legos, like, rattling around. And, when Dean had to rebuild the car completely, which, if you'll recall, at the end of season 1, the car, like, flew off of the side of the road and exploded into a million pieces, and Dean rebuilt it. But he's like, Dean rebuilt it with all of those because the imperfects are the imperfections are the important thing. And we see, like, little clips of, like, baby Sam stuffing this army man into the ashtray of the car.
And they're carving their little initials into the car, and you're like, oh, my heart.
Oh, it's so So we cut back. Lucifer's like, okay, like, hey girl, what are you doing here? And Sam's like, okay, I'm ready. And Lucifer's like, I don't know. And then Sam, like, blinks, and the two demons who are in the room with them just die. And Lucifer's like, ooh, you've been, like, juicing. You're ready to go. And he's like, yeah, no, yes, I want to say yes. And Lucifer is like, uh-huh. Well, I don't know. 'Cause I know about the rings. You're going to make keys. You're going to throw me back in the cage. I actually know about that. And you're going to try to trick me. Yeah, like, are you fucking stupid? Of course he thinks, of course he knows. The demons who have been working with the horsemen all know. Why would they not report back to him? Anyway. But he's like, yes, what's your whole plan? Is that you're going to try to wrestle me for control? Okay, well, yeah, sure. We can try if you want, and we can have a bit of a little fight. And if I win, if you win, then I'll back off. And if I win, well, I win. Another thing earlier, Sam trying to convince Lucifer, he's like, oh, well, we're tired of, like, the whole runaround. We're tired of all this. We know it's coming. We see it's inevitable. So just let Dean live, and, like, after the fight's over, let me live, let Dean live, and bring back our parents. Because he's kind of trying to go for, like, the appeal to emotion. And then Lucifer reveals that he knows about the rings, and Sam's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, okay, yes, you do. So anyway, he says all that, and he's like, yeah, Sam, like, if I win, then I win, and we fight for control. Fiddle of gold against your soul. So I think I'm better than you. Want to do it? And Dean is, like, freaking out. And Sam looks at him and he's like, okay, well, this, like, doesn't change anything. Like, the plan is still the same. Okay, yes. Yeah, do it. And Dean is like, no, like, don't, this is not what we planned for. But nevertheless, Sam agrees, and the room lights up, and we see from Cass and Bobby's point of view, who are waiting outside, they look up and see that, like, the light, the room has lit up. And then we cut back. Dean is, like, rubbing his eyes, and he sees Sam collapsed on the ground. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, Sam. But he takes out the rings, the fidget spinner, throws it on the wall, and starts reciting a spell, which I guess is supposed to be an Enochian. It's not Latin, but it's really funny to me because they try to make them sound so, like like epic when they do these, but they just sound stupid. Like it's
sound
funny.
So fucking dumb.
It sounds so dumb. I was like, I'm happy that you also agree that they sound stupid doing this. Because at least if it was like Latin, I'd be like, whatever. I don't know. This whole thing just is stupid. But he has this spell to open up the portal that you assume Death gave to him. And he's like, Sam, like, get up. Like, you gotta go, Sammy. Like, you gotta go now. And he's emotional, but he's like, all right, like, we gotta do this. Sam gets up, and he's, like, staggering, and he's like, Dean, oh my gosh, like, okay. And he stands up, and he goes, and he stands right in front of the hole in the wall. And then he stands up straight. And then he turns around and looks at Dean. And he goes, gotcha. I overpowered Sam in a matter of moments. Sammy's gone. He puts out his arm, and the portal closes, and the key flies into his hand, and he puts it in his pocket. And then he disappears. And there's this gif that I'm sure you've seen if you've looked up Guy crying. Dean.
No, literally, I was like, the gif!
Dean has his hands on his head, like, hands up behind his head, and he's, like, in shock. He's crying. He's like, it's fucking over. Like, it's so over. Oh my god. And another thing is, right before Lucifer leaves, he says, I told you this would always happen in Detroit. Because if you'll recall, that's what he told him, like, in the end. But that's also crazy, because I'm like, that was not the same Lucifer that said that. So how does he know that? It's fine.
Show plays fast and loose with time travel. Don't think about it too much.
It was epic, so it's not a big deal. So it's a little dark. It's looking a little dark for the boys. Then we cut, and we see Lucifer in Sam's body. And he's in this room. It's almost like a basement. And there's like 4 people standing there. One's like a girl, one's an older guy, one's a guy who's like about Sam and Dean's age, and there's another person. They don't really matter that much. And we hear Lucifer, and he goes, I can feel you scratching away in there. You know, I'm not a bad guy, and I'm gonna let you talk. And he goes up to a mirror, and basically Sam is talking to Lucifer in the mirror.
Jared kind of ate this a little bit. He ate this.
But Lucifer's like, you know, I'm not the bad guy here. And Sam's like, I'll rip you apart. And he goes, such anger, young Skywalker. When the fuck did he have time to watch all of the original trilogy?
I guess he had Netflix in the cage.
I guess, because I was about to be like, it's not like he was around. Like, the fact that this version of Lucifer has such a good cultural consciousness is so insane to me.
It's crazy.
But I digress. He's like all angry, and he's like, who are you really angry with? Are you angry when you look in the mirror? You know, I bet you can feel the exhilaration. You know, because we're 2 halves of the same whole. And Sam's like, no, like, what are you talking about? He's like, you were literally made for this. Like, we are the one person. You know, every time you ran away from your family, you weren't running from them. You were running towards me. And Sam's like, no, he doesn't want to believe it. And Lucifer's like, well, you know, Sam, I only want the best for you. And listen, once I do my thing, I'll spare Dean. I'll even bring your parents back. And listen, I've brought a show of goodwill. You see all these people here? You recognize them? And Sam looks at this group of people, and he's like, I think, I don't know. And Lucifer's like, yeah, you recognize this guy? He was your high school teacher. And that's Rachel, your prom date. And if you recall, Rachel has been referenced before when Dean was like, yeah, and I slept with your prom date. Very weird, because how old was Dean when Sam was going to prom? Not the point.
Also, now we know that she was a demon.
Well, I'm gonna get there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, spoilers for 5 seconds from now.
But he's like, yeah, on your prom date. And like this guy you knew in college, all of them were demons. They were all demons, and they were all working with Azazel to manipulate you. And Sam's shocked, and he's like, no, there's no way. And he's like, yeah, girl, like, it's true. You know, but here's my show of goodwill. Don't you want revenge? Don't you want to hurt these people? Don't you want to kill these demons? And then we cut back to a very harrowing scene of Dean, who is now back outside. He's with Bobby and Cass. They're in front of like a TV shop, I guess. And they're watching all these clips of like natural disasters that are happening and like all this stuff that's like fucked up in the world. And they're like, oh, and it's like it's everywhere. And Dean's like, okay, like he's freaking out because this was not part of the plan. And he's like, okay, like what do we do? How do we stop it? And he looks at Cass and he's like, what? Like, you're the angel. What do we do? And Cass is just so defeated. He looks back and he's like, what do you mean stop it? Like, that was our plan. We can't stop it now. Like, there's going to be a showdown between Michael and Lucifer. And then Dean says something incredibly homophobic.
It's so insane.
That
it comes out of nowhere.
No, well, he says, because Cass is like, okay, like, it's not happening. It's over. And Dean's like, quote, listen to me, you junkless sissy. We are not giving up. What in the hell are you talking about?
Eric Kripke, apologize for your crimes.
To be fair, he also called Uriel junkless because the angels just, I don't really know why. I guess the angels don't really fuck.
Why do you keep thinking about Cass's junk, huh?
That's what I'm saying. But, anyway. But he's like, you know, yelling at him, and Cass is like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know. And he turns around, he's like, Bobby, can you believe this? Bobby? And Bobby's standing there, and he's like, I don't know. Yeah, of course I want to do something, but I don't know what else there is for us to do. Like, and Bobby is like on the verge of tears. Like, they're both like, it's so over. And Dean's like, okay, the showdown's gonna happen. Wait, there might be someone who knows where this is gonna happen. So we cut. So then we see Chuck. But as Chuck is delivering this voiceover, we also see clips. And he says, in between jobs, Sam and Dean would sometimes get a day or even a week to, you know, to themselves when they weren't busy. You know, sometimes they would hustle at pool, and Sam always wanted to work a real job, like do honest work, but he turned out just like his brother. And, you know, sometimes they'd go 1,000 miles to see an Aussie show or drive all day for a Jayhawks game. And then they'd park her, being the Impala, they'd park her in the middle of nowhere to watch the stars for hours, saying nothing. They were never homeless. Or he was like, they were never homeless. Like, they always had a home. But that's a good line. That's a really good line. And you see that this is like, he's writing this like in his manuscript for this next book called Swan Song. And I was like looking at the page, because I'm paraphrasing, but I was looking at the page that he was writing, and I'm like, you can tell these are not traditionally published, because like that prose sucks ass. Like, who is reading that? Because I was like, if I picked up a book and the first sentence looked like this, I would, like the first page looked like this, I would immediately close it. The amount of ellipses he had was mind-boggling. I've read some pretty bad books, but that was bad. Like, that was like bad.
Also, they are technically homeless. They do not.
They are still homeless. Like, they do.
Those boys
live in
are
a car.
Homeless. They live in a car.
But so Chuck is like, oh, that's a good line. That's a really good line. His phone rings, and this is when I was like, wait a minute. His phone rings, and he's like, Mistress Magda. Like, this bitch is having phone sex with someone whose name is Mistress Magda, which I was like,
Magda?
Is this a Mary Magdalene reference?
Oh my god! I didn't even clock that.
I don't know if that's true, but I digress. Dean answers, and he's like, it's Dean. Who's Mistress Magda? And he's like, oh, you know, no one. And he's like, you know, Chuck, you have this really weird thing with these like virginal women.
He says that because he asks about Becky, about his relationship with Becky, and he's like, oh, it didn't work out. It's because I respected her too much. And then he's like, oh, you definitely have this, like, virgin versus Madonna thing going on that you like either one, or virgin horror complex thing.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what it is.
And I'm like, who said, like, I was like, who said, like...
No,
like,
because here's the thing. He says that, it's a really weird, like, random speech to have, and then I was thinking about it, and I was like, the only reason that you would have Dean bring up, like, oh, you have this weird, like, virgin, like, thing with virgins and Madonnas, is if you're referencing the birth of Jesus Christ.
Fucking hell! I
like,
hate this stupid show.
No, and that was when I realized, Klaudia, I think Chuck was supposed to be God the whole time.
The whole time?
Maybe not the first episode he was in, but, like, at least since this season, I think he was supposed to be God, and I think we're wrong.
Were they trying to say that the new version of the Virgin Mary is a virgin nerd who writes fan fiction on the internet?
I don't think that that's what they were trying to...
No.
But I think that maybe we're wrong, and maybe it was planned out. Because I remember people theorizing about it and thinking it was stupid, and I thought maybe they just did this to have some mystery, but, like, I think that low-key, they may have played us. But I do think because they thought the show was ending that they were never going to have to deal with it again. So just, I think I always thought, like, if that was what was supposed to be, they just wrote him off. But something happens at the end of this episode, too, that I'm like, I think we're stupid. Like, I think we as podcasters are stupid for not thinking about it.
I thought that this episode, especially because they thought this was going to be the end of the series, I thought they just threw it in there as, like, and he was God and he was writing it the whole time. I don't think they thought that the whole time. I think they just threw that in there as a crazy bullshit. Like,
I kind of thought that too, but now I'm thinking maybe, like, from this season, like, from the convention, because he also has a reference to losing his virginity to in the convention episode, he has a reference to losing his virginity to a girl who turned around and said it didn't happen, a la the Virgin Mary being like, no, I'm a virgin. And I saw that theory when we read it in the wiki at the time, and I was like, that's stupid. And now I'm like, fuck. But also, why is God fucking with Mary Magdalene?
Well, because God is Jesus.
That's true. Okay.
And in the sense that God is Chuck Shirley, because it's just his other persona, Chuck Shirley is like Jesus.
This is getting a little too much for me. Anyway, so that happens, and Dean's like,
is God, you know, in a way, instead of being a carpenter, he's a writer named Chuck.
So, okay. You know what? I really can't do this. So he's like, oh my God, girl. Like, so he's like, so anyway, that was a weird conversation. So Chuck, Sam said yes. And Chuck's like, yeah, I know. Like, I saw it. That was really messed up. And he's like, yeah, so, like, what do we do? Like, what's going on? Like, Michael and Lucifer, they're gonna fight. Do you know where? And Chuck's like, well, the angels have been keeping it, like, super low-key. Like, they don't want anybody to know. But I saw anyway. It's gonna be tomorrow at noon at this place called Stull Cemetery. And Dean's like, cemetery? That sounds so familiar. That's outside of Lawrence in Kansas, like, where we're from. And Chuck's like, yeah, I guess, like, starting it or ending it where it started, right? And Dean's like, all right, T, like, I'm into it. Let's do it. Let's go. We cut back to Sam / Lucifer. Lucifer, who's sitting there completely, like, covered with blood, and all of the people who are there, the demons, are all dead. And he's like, so, did you have fun with that? And you can tell Sam low-key did have a little fun doing that.
And good for him. Good for him.
Sam, don't give in to bloodlust, diva.
No! Oh, also when God, Chuck Shirley, was like, oh, it's the perks of being a prophet. I was like, perks of being a wallflower? Perks of being a prophet? Anyway, can someone edit Chuck Shirley onto the perks of being a wallflower poster?
Yeah, well, he does say, because he's like, because he's talking about, like, oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah, perks of being a prophet. So we cut again Dean is like loading up the car and he's like about to get going, and Cass and Bobby like walk up and are like, so where do you think you're going? Because he was gonna try to get out and go. And Dean turns around and he's like, okay, like, don't try to stop me. I have to talk to Sam. And Cass is like, Dean, your brother has been overtaken by Lucifer. Like, if you go, you are not going to be able to talk to Sam. The only thing that you are going to see is Michael killing your brother. And Dean says, well, then I ain't going to let him die alone.
Suicidal Dean is my least favorite brand of Dean.
Yeah, it's so tragic. It's just so, I'm like, oh my God.
Also, watching this when they were like, this is like the final countdown, but you know that he has to go through 10 more seasons of suffering more than Jesus. You're like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. And they keep saying shit like ended where it started and it's only season 5. And
yeah.
Anyways.
It's so fucked up because it's like it's so hard watching this knowing like how much more there is. It's just awful.
I'm burdened by knowledge I shouldn't have.
Truly. So we cut. We're in this cemetery and Lucifer is there again in Sam's body and he's standing there. And then suddenly he hears a voice. It's like, hello, brother. He turns around and it's Adam, but it's not Adam. It's Michael. And they have this conversation and they're like, oh, it's good to see you. Good to see you too. And Michael's like, yeah, it's been too long. And Lucifer's like, girl, like, why are we doing this? Like, we don't have to do any of this. And Michael's like, well, like, I don't want to have to fight you. Like, because they're talking, they're like, oh, I missed you so much. Like, it's good to see you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to have to fight you, but it's like, what has to happen? And Lucifer's like, no, like, what? God, because dad told you to do it? And he's like, yeah, dad did tell me to do it. And I'm a good soldier. And, you know, you rebelled and I'm not going to rebel at this point because I'm a good son. And, you know, you rebelled and you made him leave. And Lucifer's like, well, no one makes dad do anything. He is doing this to us.
No, and the problem is that Satan was kind of eating with it. Like, he was right.
He was right.
He was right. And then you realize that God is writing it this whole time, so he was right. Like, fuck! And, like, when you've seen the rest of the show, and that they kill God and whatever, and, like, the whole thing is that the brothers are mad that God is making them do these things, and you see it in Michael and Lucifer here, and Lucifer being like,
yeah.
Anyways.
So they're going back and forth, and at the end of the day, Michael's like, listen, I don't want to fight you, but I have to because that's like what God wants me. That's what God has told me to do. So they start circling each other like they're gonna fight. And then suddenly we see a hand putting a cassette tape in to a cassette player in a car. It's the Impala. And Rock of Ages by Led Zeppelin starts playing loud as fuck as Dean rolls up in the Impala by himself. And he gets up and he's like, hey guys, am I interrupting something? And they've both turned to look at him and are like, girl. And then we cut. And I think there's a commercial break here. So we come back from the commercial break. Dean is getting out of the Impala and he's like, so I need to talk to Sam. And Michael's like, girl, you're not the vessel anymore. You have no right to be here. And Lucifer's like, yeah, Sam is gone right now. Like, he doesn't want to talk to you. He is not going to be talking to you. And Dean's like, no. Like, I think I'm gonna talk to him. And Michael goes like he's about to start getting like aggressive with Dean and like being like, girl, you're not a part of this. Guys, what do we hear from off screen?
Fucking hell.
I've been so excited. I was so excited that I was the one who got to recite this episode because I'm the one who gets to say this. We hear Castiel's voice. Hey, ass butt. and he throws a Molotov cocktail at Michael and sets him on fire, and he disintegrates.
And it's with holy oil, so it's
holy
fire.
oil. It is correct.
Which to me, I would think that it would disintegrate his vessel, but then he comes back in the same vessel, so, like, whatever. Just don't think about it too hard.
I think he just had to go, like, disappear to go jump in some water or something. But, Cass and Bobby have rolled up. And Lucifer looks at Cass. And Dean also looks at Cass and he goes, ass butt? And Cass is like, you know, I tried. And
the way that those are the last words they ever say to each other.
Well, for a moment.
For a moment. But, like, imagine.
So Lucifer turns and looks at Cass and is like, did you just throw a Molotov of holy fire at my brother? And Cass is like, yeah. And he's like, no one gets to mess with my brother but me. And Cass kind of goes to, like, say something.
He says no one gets to dick with my brother except for me.
Yeah.
Which is so weird.
But he says that. And then Cass goes to, like, say something. And he snaps his fingers. And, guys, Cass explodes. Not like, oh, he explodes in a fire. Like, not fire, not anything. He literally, like, explodes and, like, his guts. And it turns into, like, blood mist.
His guts are all over Bobby.
No, Bobby's standing next to him and gets, like, splattered. And Bobby's like, oh, fuck. And
also,
Dean
why doesn't he do that to Dean? If he
well,
he wants him
he's
to
a
die
hater.
slowly. But I'm like...
But Dean's standing there and he's like, oh, fuck. Like, oh, God, it's so over. So they're both freaking out. He turns around to Dean and he goes over. He's like, I'm done fucking around with you. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you now. Because he's like, you are so annoying. I was trying to be nice. I was trying to tell Sam that I would, like, let you and your parents live, whatever. But now you've pissed me off. And he starts, like, genuinely beating the shit out of Dean, like, punching him. Like, his face is swollen and he's bleeding. And Bobby pulls out his gun and shoots Lucifer in the back. Lucifer turns around. He shoots him again in his chest. And he looks at Bobby and he's like, okay, don't piss me off. And he twists his wrist and Bobby's neck snaps and he dies.
You're like, at this point, Dean has lost his brother, has lost his Pookie, has lost his dad. He's having the worst day ever.
He literally shouts out when Bobby falls and it's so sad. But he's focused on Sam. He's locked in and he keeps trying to be like, Sam, if you're in there, like, Sam, I'm here. I just want to talk. I'm here for you. Like, hey, I'm here. And he keeps saying that and it's so sad. And he's getting beat up and Lucifer pushes him up against the Impala and is, like, smacking him and throws him to the side. And then pushes him up against, like, the back seat or, like, the back door window. And he looks down and Dean's face is, like, so messed up. And he goes, it's all right. I'm not going anywhere. And Lucifer looks up and he sees the little army man stuffed into the ashtray. And then there's this, like, really touching sequence that's cut together of, like, them from all of the past episodes of the show and then, like, some clips from, like, the younger versions of them. And it's, like, it's almost completely silent. Like, there's no audio to it. There's just, like, a sort of white noise-ish sound. And you realize it's Sam having this flashback and breaking through. And suddenly Sam is there and he stumbles back. And I was like, oh my God.
It's so emotional, but it also, you can watch when Supernatural switches from film to digital.
Literally. Yeah.
It's so funny.
So Sam has this moment and then it's like, okay. He steps back and he's like, I got him. Dean, it's gonna be okay. And he reaches into his pocket and pulls out the horseman's rings, the fidget spinner, throws it on the ground, and a pit opens up. He recites the spell, and he puts his arms out like he is going to sacrifice himself. And then Michael shows up, and he's like, no, it can't end this way. Like, I have to fight my brother. like, this has to happen. So he runs to grab him and to, like, pull him back into fight. And Sam grabs Michael and pulls them both backward into the pit. And there's a slow motion shot of them both falling into the cage. And then the portal disappears. Dean is sitting there by himself, bloodied, and everyone around him is dead. And Sam is gone. And then Dean is kind of sitting where the pit was. He's on his knees. And he hears something. And he looks up. And Cass is there. Cass, who we saw explode. And Dean is like, oh my gosh. And Cass is like, yeah, I'm back. And I've got some new tricks. He touches Dean's forehead and completely heals him. He's fine. He looks up and he goes, Cass, are you God? And Cass goes, no, I'm not. But I do think he's the one who brought me back.
And he also says, like, that's a thank you for the compliment, but, like...
Yeah, he's like, thank you, I appreciate it, I am not God.
Although he's like, let's take this mask tool and use it for later.
Yeah. But Dean is like, oh my God. And he like he gets up and there's this, oh my God, this scene of Cass standing there and Dean slowly rises up off of his knees to like meet his gaze. And I was like, oh my God,
what the
like
fuck?
I'm gonna crash out.
What the
Guys,
fuck?
These last like few scenes, I was like, I know how the show ends. Like I know what happens, but it still got me.
Also, the number of times that God has brought Dean back or has brought Cass back for Dean and every and just for the next scene that happens, God is literally bringing a man and putting a man in front of you and you're going, no.
God is sending you a message. You need to open your eyes.
None of this would have happened if they had just fucked.
That's what I'm saying. And not even that. They needed to make love. But but Dean like looks and then he sees and Bobby's still there on the ground and Cass is like, oh, I've got some new powers. He touches Bobby's forehead. Bobby gasps and wakes up. And stands up. Then we have some more voiceover from Chuck. He says, and this line's crazy. He says, we cut to see him like typing on his computer. And he says, endings are hard. Any chapped ass monkey with a keyboard can poop out a beginning, but endings are impossible.
Which is crazy considering that the show doesn't end here.
But he's saying, you know, like there's always loose ends. You're never going to be able to tie everything up. You know, they're just so annoying to write. They're impossible. And then we cut and we see the two cars. We see the Impala and then Bobby's van. They're driving. It's night. Dean and Cass are in the Impala. Cass is in the passenger seat. And Dean's clearly like crashing out. But he's like, so what are you going to do? And Cass is like, well, you know, now that Michael's gone, you know, I can't imagine that there's anyone in charge in heaven. It's got to be a mess. So I guess maybe I'll go and try to make it right and take control. And Dean's like, oh, so suddenly God brings you back and now you're back to being his bitch? And he's like, well, no. It just feels like the right thing to do. Because, like, no one else is going to do it. And I'm like, I understand his logic. Because he's like, you know, it's heaven.
I don't know.
No one's in charge.
I just feel like he doesn't give that much of a fuck about heaven anymore.
No,
it's character assassination of my boy, okay?
Oh, see, I disagree because I think Cass is still at the point where he thinks it's like heaven institutionally is not the problem. The problem was that God was not there, and the problem was that the people in charge had bad intentions. So Cass is still at the point where
he was really disillusioned, though.
Yeah, but I think he's still at the point in his radicalization where he thinks like, I can, as a good actor, I can go in and fix it.
Oh.
If I'm in charge.
Yeah, okay.
So
yeah.
I think that's what, because that's what he's saying to Dean, right? He's like, no, I'm not like doing this for God. I'm doing it because I think it's the right thing to do. And like heaven's important. Someone has to be in charge.
They're doing it because the writers want him to go back to Lisa and not to go back to Cass.
Stop it. I feel like it actually does make sense for Cass's character. I'm sorry.
I know. You're correct. I'm just being an ass.
I know. No. So, but he's like, you know, they're going back and forth. And he's like, okay, so what? You're going to be like, you know, what, are you gonna go find God? And he's like, no, I'm actually don't really give a shit about God right now. Like, Cass is like, I'm doing this for me and for the other angels. Like, I'm not doing this for God. And Dean's like, oh, well, if you see him, can you tell him that he's my next target? And Cass is like, okay, you're angry. And Dean's like, yeah, I am angry because this all ended how it did. And Sam is still, like, stuck in the cage and I'm here. And Cass is like, well, Dean, you know, this is what you wanted in the end. You know, there was so much that happened. You know, this isn't paradise. It's not hell. This is the middle ground. This is just more of the same. Because, you know, it would, if Michael wanted to be paradise, if Lucifer wanted, it would be hell. So he's like, yeah, this is more of the same. And he says, what would you rather have? Peace or freedom? And then you turn, the camera turns, and Cass has disappeared. And Dean is like, you really suck at goodbyes.
Okay, and that line, knowing how Cass eventually says goodbye.
Yeah. The fact that some of the last conversations these two bitches have in either show is like, oh my
like,
god.
No, because going from this and you suck at goodbyes to the Cass telling him that he loves him and then cutting to Dean sliding down down the wall.
So then we cut. We see Dean get out of the car and he is back at, like, Bobby's scrapyard. Bobby gets out and Chuck's voiceover says, this is the last time Dean and Bobby will see each other for a long time. In fact, Bobby will be fighting a Rougarou somewhere. And I'm like, oh god, okay, bringing that back.
I'm sorry, that's such bullshit. Like, you don't think Sam wouldn't want him to be happy with his existing living family, Bobby? That's such bullshit.
Yeah,
it's bullshit.
But to be fair, Sam's argument was also, I think, kind of an 11th hour. Like, dude, you just need to go get out of hunting. Like, get out now.
I guess.
I think he was just saying get out of hunting.
Yeah, he was. But I'm like, and he wouldn't see Bobby for what?
Hold on. I have a lot of thoughts. Let me get through this. But he's like, Bobby will be fighting this, but Dean won't. Dean didn't want Cass to save him. He wants to die or to find a way to bring Sam back, but he isn't going to do either because he made a promise. And then we cut to Lisa and someone's knocking at her door and she answers and it's Dean. And Dean's like, hi. And she's like, oh my god, like, you're alive. I thought, like, based on the last time I saw you, because if you'll recall, he came back to visit her before he thought he was going to go give himself up to Michael. She's like, I thought, like, you would be dead. Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'll actually take you up on that beer now. If your offer's still there, still good. And she's like, yeah, like, of course it is. And he comes in and she gives him a hug. And I do really like Lisa. Like, that's the problem. I'm like, this is Lisa.
There's nothing wrong with her.
Nothing wrong with
Lisa.
Lisa.
The show. It's nothing wrong with her.
Yeah. But, you know, so she goes in. And then we see Chuck, who's again typing on his little computer. And he goes, so what's it all add up to? It's hard to say. For me, I'd say this was a test for Sam and Dean, and they did all right. Up against good, evil, angels, devils, destiny, and God himself, they made their own choice. They chose family, and well, isn't that kind of the whole point? And then on his screen, you see he types the end, and then you hear him say, no doubt endings are hard, but then again, nothing ever really ends, does it? And you see Chuck sitting at his desk, and then he disappears, like right out of thin air.
Surprise, he's God.
Surprise, Chuck is God. Chuck is God, and he has been.
And people were like, oh, like, that proved my theory. I'm like, no, that was the show telling you he was God. Use your thinking skills.
Well, see, okay, well, here's the thing. I was a dumbass, so I didn't think he was God. My brain was too busy. When I first watched the show, my brain was too busy being like, oh my God, this is the craziest episode of television I've ever watched. I didn't even process that, because I was like, who cares about Chuck right now, of all people? So now I'm rewatching this, and I'm thinking about conversations that you and I have had being like, there's no way Chuck is God. And now I'm like, are we stupid? I think I'm stupid. I'm definitely stupid, but I also didn't remember. So I went off what you told me, so that's on you.
Shit.
Anyway, we cut and we see Dean and Lisa having a beer at her kitchen table. And then slowly the camera pans out and pans up behind a streetlight, and the streetlight goes out. And then standing underneath the streetlight is Sam, who is looking in through the window at Dean. And then the show ends. And that was supposed to be the season finale. Or the series finale. That was supposed to be the last episode of Supernatural would have been there.
Damn. That would have been crazy if it ended there.
Guys, okay, I gotta say, let me talk my shit. This is crazy, because here's my thought. There's so many different readings of this. My thought that I justify was Sam say, I think that at the end of the day, people talk about this being like, oh, this should have been like the real ending of Supernatural. I think that this is a way better ending, but it's still just as tragic, because at the end of the day, I don't know if Dean is able to have a happy existence knowing that something is happening to Sam. Like, the show is constantly trying to say, like, they can't be happy together in the end. Like, it is like, you need to be completely away from hunting. You need to be away from your past. Like, I don't see a future where Sam and Dean have to be separated, or one of them has to be suffering for them to, for like it to resolve. I think it's tragic, and I don't think it's a bad ending, but it is just so like fucked up.
You're like, what the and the fact that they chose to end the show in a similar manner.
Yeah, but I almost feel like it is better to me. I think that the ending is better of saying Sam, who tried to leave, sacrificing himself, and Dean, who wanted to sacrifice himself, has to live. I think that there's something very tragic about, like there's some...
Why would you say that?
No, but there's so much dramatic irony there, like, not dramatic irony, there's so much, like,
yeah.
I mean, it's not dramatic irony, but it is irony. But I think that that's kind of an interesting ending. But I also think, and this is from my little gay brain, being like, because we talked about this, how it's like when Dean went to Lisa, it's almost like he doesn't really know Lisa that well.
Yeah.
But he knows her enough. But he says like, oh, I've pictured myself happy, it's with you. Because Dean has this idea of what a perfect life is, but he's never had the experience to actually do it. And in my brain, I'm like, if this Dean is having questions about his sexuality, which obviously they weren't writing him that way, but we all know he was. The idea that because I think the thing is, it's like he went to Lisa because Sam told him to, not because Lisa was what he was going to do. Like, he is being forced into this domesticity by a promise he made Sam, not because he's doing it of his own volition. And I think in order for Dean to be comfortable, like to have an actual closure, it has to be his own choice. But I think that also, if you say, Sam said, oh, go be with Lisa, and he said, well, that takes away the choice of having to think about, like, any other possibility for me, that makes it way easier. Yeah. So I think, like, if you interpret it as a, like, I do think Dean loves Lisa, but I think as we'll get into season 6, you'll see, like, the way he loves her is very in line with being a man who is questioning what that means and what it means to love and what his actual future looks like.
I was just thinking about a sign straight at Sam.
Yeah, Sam said go be with a woman. And to be fair, that's what Sam knows Dean to be. But
God said be gay and Sam said be straight.
But I think like there's a compelling reading here of Dean being like, okay, well, going right back into the closet to hang out with Lisa. And I also think I don't know. This ending is one that I feel so conflicted about, because I'm like, I know if this is how it had ended, I would have been so fucking angry, but I do think it's a decent ending. Like, it's a decent last episode.
I think it's hard watching it in retrospect.
Yeah,
You know what I
totally.
mean?
Like, I remember, like, I feel like when you watch this episode the first time, you're like, this is the best episode of television I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But now rewatching it, there's also parts that I'm like, that was kind of goofy.
Yeah, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Like, I will say, it gets the emotional beats really well. And it
does.
It wraps things up really well.
Another thing about this episode that I noticed, did you notice how many of the shots were, like, so close up in their faces?
Yes.
Like, Sam, especially, like, there was a part where it's like Michael is on screen, and I swear you cannot see his entire forehead because the screen encompasses his eyebrows to his chin.
Yeah.
The entire screen.
They're zoomed the fuck in.
No, they're locked in on Jared Padalecki too. Like, they're up in his business. Like,
yeah.
Steve Boyum, what the fuck were you doing?
I don't know. I mean, I respect it, but I don't know.
No, I mean, listen, it's not that bad. It was just funny because I was like, what in the hell?
What? The problem is all of my thoughts are things that are going to come up as we cover more of the show. It's so hard to watch this episode in retrospect. I literally wanted to start the next episode because I was like, all right, I need to get my hater energy on because knowing
tough.
What happens next is like,
yeah, like it retroactively makes it harder to watch. Like, it sucks too because it kind of undermines, when I said earlier about this being the last time Supernatural really has an idea of what it's trying to say. Like, I think this episode understood that, like, the most dramatic ending is Dean living and Sam dying, or like Dean who never thought he was gonna live versus Sam who always tried to escape, meeting their fates that way.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the last time that the show understands that that's what the core of the show is. Because I will
say in the last season, I think it gets back to this a little bit, and that's why I had hope by the second to last episode, and then the last episode happens and I'm like, fuck that. The next time that it ever gets close to having this sort of direction, this sort of actual point to what it's trying to say is in the last season, especially in that second to last episode of the show. And the last episode of the show, I feel like negates all of that, which is why it makes me so angry. But I was like, oh, we're finally back in business towards the end of the show.
It's just, and I think the thing that gets me too is the show's about to go through its cycle of like showrunners. And I feel bad because Sarah Gamble has written some consistently pretty decent episodes.
Yeah.
And then when she is running the show, it's kind of like, and obviously it's like you can't pin it all on her. Like, it's not like she's like the only like the big problem or anything. Cause like even after her, like it gets worse after her. Like by far.
She's dealing with the uncomfortable thing of like having to revive the show from a place of like it clearly
the show's
ended.
Over.
Yeah.
No, and I think we're gonna see a lot of like the show. I remember had a lot because I remember season 6. It's like it has a lot of growing pains, but there are some fun moments in season 6.
Yeah,
and it does do some interesting things with the characters, but it's just clear that it lacks like the like where are we going with this vibe. And I think that it sucks too because consistently we have not enjoyed episodes written by Andrew Dabb.
Yeah,
and like. It sucks too because even if I didn't know he was the writer, like even if I didn't know like what he brought to the show, I would still have issues with the episodes he had written.
Yep.
Because I feel like they do consistently have the worst characterization of these guys.
And a lot of the problematic shit.
And a lot of it. Like, I genuinely don't remember the episode we talked about in our last episode with all of the other deities. I don't remember that being as bad as it was. But
like,
it's
it was
like really
bad,
bad,
but I did not remember how bad it was.
Yeah, so it's kind of to the point where I'm like, fuck that guy. Like, I'm sure, to be fair, it was like, that was also 2010, so like I'm sure he has changed a lot since then. But even so, I remember stuff like later on, like I remember there being jokes where like Dean was making jokes in like season like 8, 9, 10, where Dean's making jokes about like how he can't pronounce the names of certain monsters because they're foreign. And I'm just like, anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. The point is, this truly is the Swan Song. Like, this is it. This is where the show really drops off.
Yeah.
And it sucks because, again, there's so many cool moments going forward, but they're just not the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to end on a positive note? What was our favorite part of this episode?
The Castiel, obviously.
Okay.
Like, obviously.
Well, yeah.
He's brought back by God to help his Pookie. Like, God knows he can't bring back Sam, so he brings back the second best thing, Cass.
Yeah. And I will say, like, Cass... Misha Collins' acting, because this is, again, like, Cass has been a very, like, 1 or 2 note character up until, like, the second half of this season.
Yeah.
And now that he's really gotten to be around more and got to be in more, like, he's starting to develop a personality outside of, like, oh God, what did I do?
Yeah.
So it's like he is taking the character in such a fun direction. You can totally see why he became, like, an instant favorite.
Yeah.
And I think, again, the thing about this is that the acting is just so good.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I have to stand.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, next time you hear from us, we'll be in season 6.
Oh, God.
Season 6. I never thought we'd make it this far.
No.
I surely thought one of us would have exploded or something by now, just of pent up anger.
Exploded Castiel style.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
One of us would have, like, our blood pressure would have gone through the roof.
I'm really nervous.
Anyway, thank you for listening to 5 seasons of this goddamn show.
Jesus, you guys are so strong.
For more of our cursed supernatural content, our conclave commentary, you can follow us on social media at Mystery Spotcast on Blue Sky, Tumblr, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also ask us cursed supernatural questions in our Tumblr Ask Box or by emailing us at themysteryspotcast@gmail.com. We have a link to a form in our show notes if you'd like to submit songs for our official Mystery Spotcast Supernatural playlist. There's also a link to the playlist in the show notes. If you enjoyed listening to this very cursed recap, make sure you rate the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a comment on our YouTube channel, tell a friend, curse them with this knowledge, who knows. And we'll see you 2 Tuesdays from now for more slaying people, queerbaiting things, the supernatural business.